What up, everybody? I'm back, and today I'm going to be doing a review of The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 11, titled Knots Untie. This is my in-depth review. If you want to see my quick reaction review, it is posted on my channel. This should be the most recent video. Now, this episode begins with a quick scene of Sasha and Abraham. In this quick scene, you find out Eugene is starting to take patrol and will be joining Abraham on patrolling around Alexandria, keeping it safe. Sasha decided to take a new post. I can't quite remember where, but that does mean that her and Abraham won't be seeing each other much anymore. This seems to get to Abraham, as it is brought up repeatedly throughout the episode. First off in this very beginning scene, and then it flickers to it throughout this next scene involving Abraham and Rosita. This scene takes place in the morning after the two had just woken up, and basically what this scene is, Rosita gives Abraham a necklace that was made of the back of the fuel truck that they had, and so, that's pretty much all that's to know. So she gives him the necklace, and he's very conflicted over what to do because he wants to be with Sasha, but it also seems like he doesn't want to leave Rosita. Now, the next scene takes place at night, which is a immediate jump from morning to night. It's our very first scene of Glenn and Maggie actually together. Very first featured scene of Glenn and Maggie together since episode 1 of this season. This scene's nice. It's just Maggie's farming, talking about how no tomatoes have started budding yet, but Glenn seems to be optimistic about it. In the background, we see that people start to notice Jesus is gone. And Jesus being gone leads into the continuation of the scene we got last episode, where Rick and Michonne are in bed and he stops by to say hello. So because Jesus stops by in the middle of the night, Carl comes and confronts him, and when Rick and Michonne run out, Carl notices them, and it's this very awkward, kind of funny scene between the three of them. And then the rest of the crew, which is Abraham, Glenn, Maggie, and I feel like there was someone else involved, run up through the stairwell and see Rick Michonne fresh out of bed with Carl there pointing a gun at Jesus. The very next scene we get takes place the next morning between all of the main characters sitting around a table talking to Jesus about what he was doing there, what's going on, and trying to get a feel for him. So they decide to go with him to accompany him on his journey, and Rick actually invites Carl to come, but Carl denies it, saying that a kid with a messed up face would not be the best first impression. The importance of this scene is that, first of all, Carl is having some emotional issues dealing with what has happened to him. And second of all, Rick and the gang are on the road. Now, along their travel to this mysterious location, they come encounter a car crash, and Jesus claims to know the people who were involved in it. It was one of his group's cars. And so Rick and the rest go on a rescue mission, and basically they warn Jesus if this is a trap, it's not going to end well for him. So basically what's going to happen is if anything goes wrong, they're holding Jesus accountable and he'll pay the price. Luckily, nothing bad happens, and they actually wind up rescuing a very important character from the comic book named Dr. Carson. Dr. Carson will come in handy much later in the series, but he's still a big character nonetheless. Moving on, the group gets the RV stuck in mud and exit the RV, and Jesus tells them they're here. Now they have discovered a new community, which our very first sight of it is this massive gate that has two people standing up on it. The only one that's to note is this character named Kal, who holds a spear. Immediately, he tells Rick and the group to drop their weapons, which immediately makes them draw their weapons, leading to some drama. But that is quickly cleared up, and they are let inside the walls. This is our first look at the Hilltop community. This is a major community from the Walking Dead comics, one of the big four. Those are Alexandria, the Hilltop, the Kingdom, and the Saviors community. We will be getting into the other two of those later on in the series. Now, they're inside the gate, and they notice this is a farming community. Jesus says there's not many fighters. Lots of people don't even know what they're doing in a confrontation. So, now that they're in the wall, they meet the leader of the community named Gregory. This is a very sleazebag. He's a very dirtbag guy who immediately tries to take advantage of the group, pointing out how they have a lack of food and how they will work for him in order to get what they want, because they have an abundance of food, but they're not willing to give it up for free. So him and Maggie negotiate because Rick doesn't want to deal with him, knowing that it will end badly, and he trusts Maggie as a leader, a trait that we will be seeing expanded upon throughout the series. Alright, moving on from that, they exit the building, this main house of the Hilltop community, which was in the show previously a museum who people flocked to because they had visited as kids in elementary school tours. Now this house is called the Barrington House, and that's really all the importance of it so far. Now, a new character arrives. His name is Ethan, and he goes up to Gregory telling him he was sent there from Negan. This is the second time we've heard Negan's name mentioned, and this is the most important time, really, because before all we got was a little confrontation. This time, we're actually finding out what kind of man Negan really is, because he sent Ethan to deliver a message to our leader, Gregory. And of course, this message is to stab him in the gut. Apparently, Negan killed one of the men because this supply drop that they refer to was less than Negan wanted, leading to Negan's anger, where he killed one of their men and kidnapped another one. Ethan, who was the brother of the man who was kidnapped, was sent to take Gregory's head back to Negan in order to get his brother back. Now, this does not go well because Rick, knowing exactly what to do in this situation, jumps on the man, creating a fight between Ethan and two of the others who arrived with him. I don't have any pictures from the show, so I'll just be showing the comic book panel. So basically, all that happens is the man tackles Rick. Rick pulls a knife on him, stabs him in the throat, and gets blood drenched all over him. Now, Rick stands up and turns around to see all of the community staring at him in shock, making him ask the question, what? Because he doesn't seem to think he did anything wrong. Now, after that was the most exciting scene of the episode. That was my favorite scene of the episode. Moving on from that, Rick pulls his gun immediately afterward, points it at Call, who runs over. Luckily, Jesus gets in the way and stops them from all getting into a big fight. This scene was also pretty cool. And then Maggie goes to talk to Gregory. They have some negotiations, and they decide that they will be working for Gregory, but not in the way that he wanted. They decide that because they've never really had a problem with confrontation, they will just take care of the saviors for them. The saviors being Negan's group. And when they take care of Negan's group, then they'll get the supplies. Now, Jesus explains about Negan. He says Negan is this horrible person who showed up and killed one of their people right away. And so they never wanted to mess with him ever since then. Daryl calls Negan's bluff, calling him a boogeyman, not trusting that Negan can live up to what he says he is. And he also mentions how the saviors have not really been all that big of an issue for him because, as we all know, he did kill most of them, or most of the ones that we saw. Now, in this conversation, Jesus says, he said we needed to understand right off the bat. I don't know if this was an intended pun, but it was definitely, I picked up on it, if it was, because Negan's weapon of choice is, of course, a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire that he calls Lucille. So by Jesus saying right off the bat is kind of a pun. Now, Rick decides, because Daryl volunteered for them to take care of these saviors, Rick decides that, yeah, that's the right call. They're going to do this. And that's pretty much it. So, yeah, they just decide that their next course of action is take care of the saviors. That way the Hilltop community is open up for full trade. The episode wraps up when the survivors are headed back to Alexandria, and the car with them is half the supplies that the Hilltop currently had, which is because of the negotiations Maggie had with Gregory. So they have half the supplies. Jesus goes back with them, and one of the Hilltopians, I don't really know what else to call them, and I don't remember his name, one of the survivors of the Hilltop community decides to go back with them because he knows about Negan, and they need information about Negan if they're going to attack him. In this picture, you see Glenn holding some sort of photo that Maggie and Michonne are both looking at. This is actually an ultrasound taken by Dr. Carson of the couple's baby that is currently in the womb. So that's all that happens this episode. That brings us to the end of the episode. Overall, it's a good one. Like I said, not amazing, nothing like No Way Out or Too Far Gone, but it is a good episode. Overall, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. No doubt about it. It was not an action-packed episode, that's for sure, but it was a character episode that was definitely needed. Now, to go back to a point I brought up earlier about Rosita giving Abraham the necklace, Abraham actually loses that during the confrontation with the Hilltop people, the Hilltopians, and he also loses the fight with one of the guys, which is weird because Abraham's a pretty big guy. He gets choked down, and it's because he's having these flashbacks to Sasha, which causes him to lose focus and lose the battle. And, of course, Daryl comes to the rescue, snaps the dude's arm, and that's that. Anyways, getting back to the end of the episode. Good episode, 7 out of 10. That's really all I have to say about it. Make sure to tune in next week when I will be doing more. I'm just going to refer to them as Talking Dead commercial break reaction videos. If you watch the video, you'll know what I mean. And then my in-depth reviews will come out the day afterward or 2 days afterward, depending on the week. Anyways, make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of that. If you don't care, then you don't have to subscribe. No one's making you. Thank you for watching. D-Man out.